Hello, and in this video I'm going to be going through miscellaneous unused content of the Gungeon. I'll probably think of a more clever and original title for it before I upload it, so whatever it actually ends up being called, you'll know about it when you see it. But, yes. Unlike a lot of my recent videos, this one isn't scripted, I'm just going to go through with what I know. So, yeah. I will say that this is probably going to be the last significant collection of miscellaneous unused content that I'm able to put together. Because, again, there's only so much of it that is possible to be found. Now, that doesn't mean this is going to be the last unused content video, however, because I still have to talk about unused guns and unused items. And I've decided that unused guns and unused items will be their own videos because of the sheer amount of them. Anyways, this video has a few categories, but I think I'm just going to start off with miscellaneous. The Black Sword Guard, known as the Wolf Troop in the files, can be seen lying on the ground outside of the Black Sword Manor in the Hunter's Past. All you can really do with them is interact with them and the Hunter will say that she incapacitated them, or something along the lines of they might wake up. I don't remember the exact line, but she's incapacitated these guards outside of the manor. Now, there are sprites in the files that seem to indicate that the Black Sword Guard was supposed to be capable of moving around and fighting, meaning it was likely supposed to be similar to the hegemony soldiers from the Convicts past, or the imps from the Marines past, in that it was supposed to be an enemy that would be summoned to aid in the fight, or at least present in the past. Bulby chests, or as, when I say it out loud. The sprites call them chest bulby or bulby chest if we put the words in the right order, okay? It's not my fault. Stop. Stop. Anyways, there are sprites in the files for different chests that have a remarkably different style to modern Gungeon. There are two different types of bulby chest, as they're called. I don't know why they felt the need to call them bulby chests. I'm going to move swiftly on from this, because apparently I have the humor of a 12-year-old. Something from the text dumps of the game, we have this. To do, loading screen nugget. Loading screen lore nuggets. Loading screen text for testing. This implies that the game was originally intended to have lore nuggets that would be displayed during the loading screens between each chamber, but they were eventually just cut in favor of a nice simple bulletkin slotting himself into a chamber. Now, these sprites are called the Nerve Space Flail and the Meat Space Flail, and they're stored alongside the sprites for a skeleton, spiraling backwards. These sprites would have been used in the Time Vortex after using the gun that can kill the past, and it looks like originally the player was to have all of their skin peeled off them as they spiraled downwards, but this was cut in favor of them surviving. I didn't include the skeleton here because it is actually used to an extent, in that when you send some characters spiraling back through the portal, they will appear as a skeleton instead. Now, this is probably my favourite thing that I have to show you in this video. On the 11th of May 2017, Dave Crooks of Dodge Roll tweeted out, "Behold what is believed to be the oldest functional copy of Gungeon." Pre-alpha, any oldest functional copy. Just a single screenshot of what appears to be. There are several parts to the screenshot. One, a lone Super Space Turtle, which has led several people to believe that Super Space Turtle was originally intended to be a playable character. A torch on the wall, which isn't extremely remarkable, but the walls themselves, something I can note, is that the walls themselves look a lot less like Gungeon style of walls and, makeup of rooms, and a lot more like the Nuclear Throne style of doing levels. Now, I don't know much of what to make of this. It doesn't look like it's indoors at all. It has a Super Space Turtle on his own, implying a playable character. There are no guns in sight. For crying out loud! We need to band together as one and demand that they hand over the pre-alphas. Anyways, moving on from that revelation, we have this. Unused dialogue from Taylor. Taylor's called the Sherpa in the game's text dumps, by the way. The elevator Sherpa, to be more precise. Anyways, unused text from Taylor for something called the Super Boss Rush. Upon selecting the Boss Rush, he'd say, "Very special challenge, Super Boss Rush!" And upon unlocking it, he'd say, "Hey, I have a new elevator for you, past killer. You should check it out." In the text dumps, there's also this dev note that says that the Super Boss Rush would have also required having beat the Sewer, the oubliette, the Resourceful Rat, the Rival, which is, game speak for Blockner, the Shopkeep, maybe meaning the unused Shopkeeper boss that I've talked about in the past, the Cathedral, which is, again, game speak for the Abbey, and Bullet Hell, as well as having beaten normal Boss Rush. This implies that Super Boss Rush wouldn't just have the normal bosses, but the Blobulord, the Resourceful Rat, Blockner, the unused Shopkeeper boss, the Old King, and the Lich. Finally, in the miscellaneous section, I harken back to one of the recurring characters, apparently, Bunker. While browsing Reddit, I came across this post from Dodge Roll Rubel talking a bit about Bunker and what they actually are. Just to go a little deeper into Bunker lore, that was the third or fourth boss we ever made for the game. It was a good test case for complex bullet patterns in a way that the Gatling Golem Beholster didn't really have at the time, and led us to create our own bullet script code that is used heavily on every other enemy/boss in the game. But the bunker itself was pretty static and uninteresting to fight, hence it was cut. So yeah, Bunker was largely used as a test, to test bullet patterns, and it was the third or fourth boss ever made for the game. This actually brings me around to a question. I've talked about unused snippets like the Bunker or the Bullet Bishop a lot over a multitude of videos, but there's no proper video that has everything I know about them all in one place. So here I ask, would you guys be okay with me making specific videos about Bunker where I just put everything that I know about him that I've spread out over all these videos into one concise place? I absolutely adore the fact that these videos can be used as a reference for people wanting to know about cut content or lore, and I think something like having a devoted What is Bunker video would be beneficial to that goal. Depending on the response to this question, I'll see what I do in future. Moving on from miscellaneous, this section is going to be full of cut NPCs. These range from slightly significant roles to meh, I barely even remember if he is cut, but I have checked and they are all cut, so just hold tight. The first cut NPC is simply known as Goon. It's a weird yellow gremlin thing that has the aesthetic of the convict's past and is even stored with those sprites, so presumably it's one of the convict's toadies that was cut. One of the toadies is still left in the past, however. He's a green guy, and he's referred to in the sprites as Goon 2. So apparently they made this Goon, then they made the other Goon, and they decided that the original Goon was not worth keeping in. Next up, this beefy lad is simply called the Gunsmith. Now, because of the way he's cut off at the chest, this implies that he'd sort of be standing behind a counter or something, or a table. And I have two theories. One, he's an original version of the blacksmith, or two, he's an original form of Bellow, or three, he's a cut merchant entirely. I said two theories and then I said three. Not re-recording that. I'm leaving that in so you can realize how silly I am. Now this gunsmith lad isn't completely cut from the game. You can still see his head on a shelf behind Bellow in the shop. Look for it next time you're in there. You can see his head. I don't know quite what this means, but okay. Now, moving on to what I'm sure is an unused version of the blacksmith, we have this woman called the Princess Blacksmith. Like I said, it looks like she would have been an original version of the blacksmith before it was changed to the blacksmith we know and love today. Personally, I prefer the new variant. She looks more alien, but that's just me. This fella's just adorable, isn't he? He's known as the MT Shopkeep in the sprites. He's just a green ball with little arms and a face. He's stored with the sprites of Cadence and Ox, which make me think he was originally supposed to take the place of Cadence as a shopkeeper in the Breach. Now, the thing is, hegemony credits are known internally as meta-currency, and the collection of sprites in which Cadence, Ox, this MT guy, and another cut NPC I'm going on to later are in is called the Meta Shopkeep collection. So it's entirely possible that MT Shopkeep is just a misspelling of Meta Shopkeep. This MT Shopkeep guy has a variety of expressions ranging from unimpressed to screaming to absolutely furious and looking like he's about to stab you. Now we're on to this armored purple man thing from the Marines past. Yeah, this NPC or enemy or whatever it is was cut from the Marines past. You can tell because it's still in the collection for the Marines past, because the sprites are sorted into different collections. This guy is simply known as the Tough Guy, and he has sprites for gritting his teeth, getting angry, but in the end just looking constipated. Finally in this section we have this woman, known as the Witch Keeper. Now, I don't know if there's any relation here to the 3 witches in-game, but I am 100% certain that the Witch Keeper was an early version of Cadence. The Witch Keeper and Cadence share a lot of sprites, including this one of them sleeping in the same chair. That chair, coincidentally, is known as the Witch Keeper chair. So, yeah, I don't know how she would have behaved if she'd have even behaved any differently, but for some reason the devs decided that they were going to cut the Witch Keeper and replace her with Cadence. The second to last segment is on traps. Now you gotta keep in mind that I don't know how these traps would have functioned, so take it all with a grain of salt, but this sprite is called the Blade Trap Axe. Now my best guess is that this massive battle axe would swing back and forth. It was probably cut because it didn't really fit with the theme of Gungeon, you know, being an axe and all. Moving on, we have the Blade Trap Bayonet. Now, being a bayonet, it fits a bit more with Gungeon lore, but the thing that you've got to realize about Gungeon lore is something being unholy doesn't depend on whether or not it is sharp, it depends on whether or not you use it for melee combat. There's a cut item called the Ceremonial Sword that wasn't supposed to be cursed because it is blunted and cannot be used for combat, meaning blunted weapons in the Gungeon are fine, meaning it's not the symbol of a knife that is unholy, it is the use of melee. Meaning even bayonets, surprisingly enough, would be unholy in the Gungeon. I really overanalyzed a bayonet. Anyways, up next, this sprite looks a lot more fleshed out than the last two. It's called the Beam Turret. Now, maybe this turret would have been in minecarts, because, you know, the only other turrets I'm very aware of were in minecarts. But my best guess for what a beam turret would do is that it shoots a beam. Maybe it'd be like Brimstone from Isaac, where it's a flash beam, or it would possibly be something like the Demon Head, where it's a continuous beam that it waved around the room in a swathe, possibly in a circle, making you have to dodge or roll over it. Either way, it seems like it'd be a pretty annoying trap. Finally, in this section, we have the Spinning Spike. I have 2 theories for how the Spinning Spike would have worked. 1, it stayed in one place and if you walked into it, you took damage. Or 2, it moved/bounced around the room and you'd have to avoid it. Again, I could be completely wrong, but those are my best theories as to how this trap would function. Finally, in this video, I'm going to go through a collection of the most interesting cut dialogue that I could find. This isn't all the cut dialogue from the game, but it's definitely the highlights, the most interesting selection. I'd like to give a huge thanks to Discord user Myriad453 for helping me with this cut dialogue section. He's the creator of the Unused content page on the wiki. I'm not as familiar with advanced Dungeons and Dragons as I'd like, so he helped me filter through the text dumps and identify what was actually cut and what was actually implemented in AG&D. So everyone give him a round of applause. Anyways. First up we have this line from Bello called "Fake Fake, remove this after E3.
Well met, adventurer. Sample my wares."
Another selection of lines called "Fake Fake Fake, remove after E3.
I'm not running a charity. Not enough shells. Sorry. Keep dreaming. Not gonna happen. I've got a cat to feed.
These lines seem like they'd be played whenever you tried to buy something but didn't have the money for it. Instead, if you actually try to buy something like that in the game, he only has one line, being,
"I think your wallet needs to reload."
Then we've got this text for what looks like narration from the bullet's past. With Aghanim's defeat, ballistic mayhem returned to the Gungeon, and the evil King Cannon's influence began to fade. The kin returned once more to their flipped tables, the Gunjerers danced their arcane dances, and all was well. But what became of this nameless hero kin? That is another story. This is personally my favourite. It's a cut line of dialogue from Gunther, you know, the talking living gun. He's referred to as the mask gun in the text dumps, by the way. "I saw you looking at those other guns. They got nothing on this. Those other guns may look like they have some kick, but they don't have the razzle-dazzle like I do. You may think you want a steady relationship with a normal gun, but I know you. You like the wild ones." Next up is probably the most famous example of cut dialogue from the game, a line from the pilot supposed to play after the boss of his past was beaten, before him and Zed jet away. "For now, let's get all this highly addictive and illegal spice to our child buyers." In the text dumps, that line is stored with these dev notes. So sad to lose this line, but it's too dumb. To do. Maybe write something better to end on here. And the final thing I want to show you are these lines from Taylor from what appears to have been a press demo. There are only two of them, but they are Sherpa Press Demo Walk Away 1 and Sherpa Press Demo Player Damaged. Steady aim, player nickname. Later, peace. You shouldn't even be able to get a gun in here. That's another version of the Gungeon that I want to see. I want to see the pre-alpha, I want to see the oldest version, and now I want to see whatever this press demo was. Dodge Roll has so many things hidden away that I would cut off my toe to play. Anyways, that's all I have for you in this video. It's, like I said, it'll be the last major cut content collection, so I hope you enjoy. I'm working on cut guns and cut items. I'm also working on several more lore videos, so it's not like I'm going to be leaving you in the lurch. See ya!